One special white one and two regular.
똑같구나. 그리고 심지어 고등학교까지 한 4년 한 건데 뭘 기억이 안 나.
몰라 하나도 모르겠어. 그리고 그때 배웠던 노래 한 두 개 기억나고 노래도 기억나. 그걸 스페인 선생님 그걸 시험을 봤어 노래 배우는 거. 안 하고 아이고 이제는 신났어. 내가 이거 알았어. Once again,
well, that was a nice help from one of our participants here on the train. Thank you so much. We'll say goodbye to Deb and Kaylee, our station masters. Thank you for getting us out on time and getting everybody on board safely. When you came into the doors of Greenfield Village today, you came into over 300 years of American history. That was the dream of Henry Ford. He wanted everyone to come to a place where they could see what people that lived long before us made with their hands and used with their hands, and maybe you might be inspired. I hope that happens for you today. The Greenfield Village is divided into 7 different districts, and the very first one is the Henry. Presenters there will tell you more about his early life. Then take a short walk over to the Ford Motor Company and learn how we came up with the vision of it. Now we come into our next district, Main Street, where we have the home of the Wright brothers and the Wright Brothers Cycle Shop. Across the street we have Mrs. Cohen's Millinery Shop, where you can see staff making hats and other accessories just like they did back in the 1880s. And down the street we have the Heinz home that was eventually turned into the Heinz factory. Herschel's Film and Carousel that was built in 1913. I hope you take a ride on it today. It has a menagerie of animals to choose. The statue of Thomas Edison takes us into our Edison at Works district. Way over to the left is the machine shop. In front of us, the 2 upstairs, which we refer to, Edison and his crew worked on inventions like the incandescent light bulb, the phonograph, improving on the telephone and the telegraph. Edison earned over 420 patents while he worked in this laboratory. Nice. And down the street, the single men that worked for him would rent a room from Sarah Jordan's boarding house. It made history on its own because in December of 1879, it was the very first home in the entire world that was fitted for electricity. The wires run down the walls. And when he wintered in Florida, he would continue working on his inventions at his Fort Myers laboratory from the 1880s until 1931. Our Porches and Parlors district. Right here there's over 300 years of American history. We have the home of Robert Frost, the poet. The home of Noah Webster. He's the person who came up with the American Dictionary of the English Language in 1828. And in the very far corner we have the Cotswold Cottage. It's the only structure that's not American made. It comes from Chedworth, England, built in 1619. Beautiful gardens surround the building. It was a gift to Clara Ford from her husband, Henry. As we pull into the station, please remain seated. The engineer will set a brake, giving us the sound of a single whistle, letting us know it's safe to come off the train. If you are exiting, you're going to exit to your left side here, and we're only here for 4 minutes before we move on. We'll say hello to Ben, our station master, as we pull in. And they also planted tobacco as a cash crop. They also had 65 people that they enslaved to work the plantation. Mr. and Mrs. Plimpton raised 7 children in that 1-room home. Next to that is the Paris windmill, built in 1650 from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. It's the oldest standing windmill in the United States. And then we have the Daggett family farmhouse that was built in 1754 from Andover, Connecticut. Go inside and see what life was like before the American Revolutionary War. And here's one of our hacks. Do take a ride on one of our Model Ts today. I hope to see you in one. one of you. Over to the left, you'll see a pasture that we have for our drag Percheron and Morgan horses. It's a chance for them to get a little rest and relaxation after pulling carriages around. It was back in 1970 when the staff over at the museum decided that the Greenfield village needed a perimeter railway, so they began to put plans together. And it was finally on August 22nd, 1972, almost 50 years to the date, when the first train took that trip around the Greenfield village. And the locomotive that was pulling that passenger train was none other than the Torch Lake. The Torch Lake is pulling our train right now, as it did 50 years ago. Built in 1873 by the Mason Locomotive Works, it happens to be the oldest running steam locomotive on a regular schedule in the entire country. A steam locomotive is powered by coal and water. Coal is fed into a firebox, which gets the water extremely heated that it converts to steam. It's steam then that moves through the pipes that move the pistons that move the wheels. That's essentially how a steam locomotive works. Sit back and enjoy some of the sounds that a steam locomotive makes as we pull in through our wildlife preserve. Maybe we'll be lucky to see some white-tailed deer, some wild turkeys, and other animals. Henry Ford decided to open the museum. That day was called Light's Golden Jubilee because what he really wanted to celebrate was the 50th anniversary of Thomas Edison's invention of the incandescent light bulb. He invited Edison to come to our Menlo Park laboratory and reenact that same experiment. Over at the museum, there were over 277 dignitaries and guests sitting by candlelight. As soon as Edison connected the wires to reenact the lighting of the light bulb, all the lights began to glow over at the museum, and they extinguished all the candle lights. We are only 7 years from celebrating a 100-year anniversary of that very day. So mark it on your calendar, October 21st, 2029. Be here to celebrate a 100-year anniversary with us. Charter school, we had over 500 students attend this past school year. 9th graders are at the museum. 10th through 12th graders have classes here. It was Henry Ford who always believed that learning to do is by doing. The students take what they studied here and they get to go into the village or museum and see firsthand what it was. In front of us, these vintage Pullman cars were converted into classrooms for our privileged senior class. To be a student here, one must live in Wayne County, Michigan. After submitting an application, you can attend high school here. 4 years, and it's all tuition free. If you are getting up at this stop, I highly recommend that you take a ride on the Herschel Spillman Carousel. It's not every day that you can ride on a historic artifact. As we pull into the station, we're going to say hello.